Did you say all set? Okay. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Wareham School Committee. Can everybody hear me? Today is Thursday, June 17th, 2021. Trying to remember how to do this in person again. The meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WCTV. And Jamie, are you making a recording? And a recording is being made by Jamie Wixton. So could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I just wanted to say, unfortunately, Mary Morgan is not able to join us tonight. And before we go any further, we just talked about WCTV. I just want to take a minute to thank all of them for the extraordinary efforts during the last 15 months, keeping our meetings going. I'm sure there are lots of things we know about and lots of things we don't know about that they did. And with that said, Bob did ask that we speak clearly into the microphones because the air conditioners are on. Otherwise, we might have to shut those off. Okay? Thank you. We'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is public participation. Is there anyone here who would like to address the committee? Anyone? No one? Okay. So we'll move on to good news. Would anyone like to share any good news? April?
I just want to congratulate Jeff on his undefeated season with the girls track team and
Tennis.
but I was going into track next and congratulate the boys track team on their season as well, and just to thank all the teachers, parents, families in the community for helping us get through what was definitely an unplanned and very tumultuous year for a lot of people. Nope, I was just kidding.
It is now.
I thanked congratulated Jeff on the girls' tennis season and the boys' track team for their undefeated season, as well as all of the other sports teams and the teachers, students, parents, families, and community for everything that they went through this year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jeff?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you, April, for that. But I have a dozen girls. Mr. Palladino will cringe when I say this, but half of them are gold scholars. So to say I'm a blessed coach is an understatement, but they are getting a fabulous education, and they talk about it all the time.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I attended town meeting on Saturday, and the traveling art show that was out front was genius. I see Mrs. Erickson there. I hope that's something that you continue to do even post-COVID, because it was the art show was one of my favorite things to go to, but that was really great. And imagine how the kids felt being able to drive by different spots in town and see their artwork out there. It was really great. It was really great. So that was a great idea. And since our last meeting, there was graduation for the high school and for the PASS program. So I just want to say congratulations to all the graduates. They had good weather for both ceremonies. So that's good news. And also I just wanted to congratulate our new student rep who will be joining us in the fall. Adrienne Padden was elected to be the new student rep to the school committee. So we're very excited about that. And she'll be, like I said, joining us in the fall. All right, we will move on to the minutes of the meeting. The first set of minutes is from May 6th, 2021. Does anyone have any questions or changes to those minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we don't have to have roll call votes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 4-0-0. The next set is from May 20th, 2021. Go ahead.
I just have one correction, if we could, under where it said on the second, the minutes of the meeting from April 29th. It referred to me as Mr. Rossi instead of Miss, so I just wanted to put that correction in. Other than that, I so moved.
Okay. Anyone else?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 4-0-0. Okay, next on the agenda is the class of 2022 prom. Hello.
Hello.
Hopefully, they'll have less
Hello.
obstacles to
Yes.
go over, but Ms. Zach will be the senior class advisor. She's currently the junior class advisor. And with her, we have Bridget Irving and Jamie Wixton, and they're going to give you a presentation about the plans.
Well, Abby Wixton, but yeah.
Abby, oh my God. Oh, Freudian slip. Abby, oh my God. I'm so used to typing your mother's name. Sorry, Abby. I usually just go with Wixton, and then I don't screw it up.
She knew what you meant, yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So anyway, they're going to be presenting for the senior prom for next year.
Okay.
Okay, so as Mr. Palladino said, I am the president of the class of 2022. My name is Bridget Irving. We are requesting the date of Saturday, May 14th, 2022 at the Cape Club in Falmouth. We're estimating that our cost will be around $65 to $75 for tickets, which will cover the cost. Do you have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
I just like to know how you guys chose your venue, what you liked about it.
So we've used that one in the past, and Miss Medina was nice enough to send us photos because we weren't able to go this year. And I fell in love with the chandelier there and the outside space, but I just thought it was a really pretty place, and I think everyone else agreed.
Great, thank you.
That was the original venue for this year's prom, is
This-
that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we've been
Okay.
there, like Bridget said, we've been there 3 times in the last few years. They do a nice job.
The outside space is really beautiful there. I've visited there recently. Yeah, looking at wedding venues. Yeah, so good for you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Jeff?
Did you say 55 to 75?
I said 65 to 75.
Oh, 65. I
Yeah.
was going to ask you why it was such a big range. Okay, what have the past prom costs been?
This past one was 75 for the one that we just had, Plymouth Plantation.
She was
So-
there.
Yeah, it was I went. It was 75.
Okay. I'm glad to hear inflation hasn't hit proms.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not this year, hopefully.
Thank you.
Has there been a pause in fundraising because of COVID, and will that have an effect?
Yeah, this year we just did a sticker sale fundraiser, just real quick at the end of the year, and we didn't make a ton of money off it. So we're planning on hustling next year. But freshman and sophomore years, we did pretty good.
Oh,
so
good,
We
good.
also did an online fundraiser this year, which I think we made around 800.
800, yeah.
Yes, so
Okay.
we definitely had a pause, but
We kept it up.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to jump into action next year. We already
Yeah.
have things planned.
Prom's usually self-sufficient in
Right.
nature. We try not to use any fundraising money because not everyone is involved.
Oh, okay.
Not every senior goes to the prom.
Right, right. Okay. Jeff?
I think I'll direct this to Mr. Palladino. Are you, over the course of time, doesn't have to go that far back, are you aware of any person who has not gone to a prom for financial reasons?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure it happens because it's more than just the prom ticket, as
Exactly.
you know.
So
But
would
I
you
have a
have-
connection with tuxedos. I've been able to get free tuxedos. We have a closet full of prom dresses, every size, every style.
Wow.
So we try to make it as affordable as we can. In the past, we've been able to get flowers donated if students need it. So if there's, it's kind of the theme that you always hear in Wareham. If there's a will, there's a way. We'll find a way. So again, not to my knowledge, because we have all these connections in place if needed. And we also have people that actually have paid for prom tickets in the past as well.
Abby, Bridget, you would agree with Mr. Palladino? You do everything possible and you're not aware of people who really want to go and can't afford it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And we have fundraisers planned that will allow kids to raise money for themselves, not only for the class, so they can put that money towards a prom ticket if they need be, or the senior dues.
So are you saying in the end, they find a way?
Yes,
Yes.
they will find a way.
There's also a way,
what
if
we
they
do.
sell an advertisement in the yearbook, it would pay for their class dues and their prom ticket. So again, where there's a will, there's a way. And we explained that in the fall, and I think there was about 8 students that took advantage of that this past fall and didn't have to pay class dues or a prom ticket because they sold an advertisement in the yearbook.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
April?
How far in advance do kids usually have to have their tickets by, and are there any last minute options? I know for just historically, my brother, 20 some odd years ago,
decided the day of the prom he wanted to go to the prom, and he was paired up with someone else who wanted to go, and they went together, but they were able to get tickets, you know, the day of, basically. Do kids have that much time, or does it have to be planned sort of ahead of time if someone, you know, almost didn't want to go but then changed their mind so that they don't regret not going?
So the locations require a head count anywhere from 7 to 10 days in advance. So that's the point in time where we would have to stop selling tickets. The scenario you explained happens quite a bit, where all of a sudden someone buys a ticket and they can't go, and now someone wants to go last minute. We're able to make that trade.
Okay.
So it does happen, but they need the head count because they have to order the meals. But usually, again, there's a will, there's a way. We've ordered pizzas for staff and given up their meals, and we've done things like that. So if a kid wants to go last minute, we find a way.
Great, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'll take a motion to approve their request.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, 400. Thank you. Good luck with your planning.
Be safe, have fun.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the strategic plan.
Who do you want to come up? Principals? Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, yes. Mr. Murray, would you mind? Thank you.
Good evening.
Good
We're
evening.
Very excited to be here, and there's a great crowd, which I'm
It is.
really thrilled about and grateful that everyone came. I can't thank you enough for doing that. So we will begin. Oh, I thought we would begin.
I think it's the one over. Present. There you go.
Excellent.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to thank our leadership team, the school leaders, with the oversight of the development of WPS 2026, the promises and the priorities. I would also like to thank the steering committee, student council, and all the students that voted on the brand. And of course, I would like to thank the school committee for their involvement. We certainly have come a very long way since approving WPS 2021, and we are very much looking forward to our future. And finally, I think I would be amiss if I didn't thank Dr. Schwam for all of her hard work, coordination, and really her due diligence in putting this plan together. So we're very happy to present this to you, and Dr. Schwam.
So one of the tasks of the steering committee was to create a new brand for our school, right, for our plan. And we had a lot of ideas. There were 39 people on the committee, and we did a lot of talking about how we were going to brand it. And in the end, the committee chose to enlist our student council at the Wareham High School to help us figure out what we should brand our schools, which was very exciting. I had already planned to meet with them, and so they got together, they created the possibilities for brands, sent that out to all of the schools, and as you can see, we had students from Wareham Middle School, Minot, and the Wareham High School all vote on their favorite of the 5 that were presented, and these are the results.
This slide shows you what we're going to walk you through tonight, the process, the promises, our priorities, and finally, at the end, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. WPS 2021 helped guide our decisions for the past 5 years. By having this plan, it allowed us to identify our priorities, keep us on track. We also used our data. If you recall, there were many times that we would say, this is what our strategic plan has guided us to do. And so we've worked very hard to bring this to life, to keep it, keep adjusting and keep this in the forefront. And it's our hope that 2026 will do the same.
We also determined, after reflection and review of WPS 2021, the areas that we needed to focus on to grow. And with the help of Modern Teacher, our goal was to create a learning model that was easy to interpret. The more others can understand it, the more participation. Initiatives need to be measured properly. One way we are going to do this is by using the School Quality Measure Survey developed by UMass Lowell. We are working with them to identify specific questions on the survey that address the look for and listen for actions. Modern Teacher has learning modules promoting modern teaching and leading. Professional staff can choose to develop their practices anywhere at any time, providing a dynamic resource to continue professional development. The current professional development year, 2021-22, will focus on the science of reading. That was after some great discussions with the DECA staff on the things that they had asked for, so we will continue on that track. Building high-quality performance-based assessments, we have training planned for that. Modern Teacher architect a learner-centered culture, which is a dynamic unit with many modules that will probably take us through the year. And it actually supports our first priority, which is the same priority we've had for a very long time, which is student voice, choice, and agency. As always, we will continue to keep a close eye on student needs and provide support from guidance, adjustment counselors, and social workers.
So much has happened since 2014, 2015. During that time, we've had I'm not sure the word I would use, the good fortune. I'm not sure if that's really it. But DESE has come in to evaluate us. We've had special education coming in, and recently we had NEASC. But because of that, we were able to really analyze what they said, how it linked to our MCAS scores, our attendance, our discipline, and our professional development data. So we've continued to pull all of the feedback in to help us guide how we've moved forward. And so here are just a few statements from our students about some of the progress that they've seen. So I would like to invite Abby to come forward and just share a little bit about your thoughts.
Hello, my name is
Hi.
Abby Wixton. I've been elected to serve as the upcoming president of the Student Council, vice president of the senior class of 2022, and treasurer of the National Honor Society. Over the past 5 years, the district made a commitment to the former Wareham Public Schools Strategic Plan of 2021. An essential measure of the strategic plan is the process of the acceptance of college. The strategic plan pushed the Wareham student to explore numerous interests, potential careers, and obtain higher education from some of the most prestigious colleges in our country. In 2015, the Student Council voted favorably in support of Naviance. This software allows us to track our progress through higher education. Wareham Public School students have attended 134 colleges and universities across the country in the last 4 years, some including Brown University, Harvard University, Smith College, Mount Holyoke, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and Massachusetts Maritime Academy. In addition to career and college exploration, high school is a time to develop academic skills and create a record of achievement. Both the current and proposed strategic plan has and will continue to help Wareham students stand out academically. I'm a proud student of Wareham High School, and I'm confident the strategic plan of 2026 will continue to promote the standards that a Wareham student has grown accustomed to. And then next, I believe, these are the lists of all the colleges These are the 134 colleges.
Quite the list.
It is quite a list.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
So through reflection, discussion, and data, here are the priorities that will remain the same as they were in WPS 2021, and the things that we will add or make different.
He's trying to ask me something about the air conditioning, and I can't hear him.
Turn
so-
this off if I don't mind. I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I thought it was off. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the areas that we were going to carry over from WPS 2021 are student voice, choice, and agency, the IB, philosophies and practices. We will continue to develop our units of instruction using the approved template. Early literacy will continue to be a huge driving factor in our as we move ahead. We will continue to have access to devices, software, and programs that enhance the learning experience for all. Continue to expand our knowledge on best practice, become modern teachers. PBIS, emotional intelligence, and the ruler training will continue to be part of our everyday lives within our schools. The changes. So in some of the language, we use the words elements and initiatives to describe the different areas of the strategic plan. We've changed that to promises and priorities. We've added social emotional learning, specifically, I would say for a number of reasons, but due to the pandemic and other things that may have affected our children, we felt it extremely important to have a priority dedicated to the social emotional well-being of our children and our staff. We'll try to develop student learning profiles and embed social emotional learning content into units of instruction. High priority for editing units and continued development of high quality performance-based assessments. We separated out scholarship into two sections. Prior, it was in one section with student learning and professional learning were in the same area. We've made two separate sections as priorities for this plan. We're going to focus on digital convergence, consider the future of artificial intelligence for education while maintaining fiscal responsibility. That's a challenge, but we will do it. We will dedicate time for modern teacher, early literacy, editing units, and high quality performance-based assessment. So we've already established a schedule. We'll begin the school year with those areas specifically. And we'll make this plan explicit, hopefully flexible, and a continued work in progress. So it is not nearly done. This is just the very, very beginning.
As we began to engage our stakeholders, I sent out a letter and it said message from the top. And I would just like to highlight some of the accomplishments that we have had in the past 5 years with our previous strategic plan. Our evaluation system is robust. It teaches and supports teaching and learning. All students have their own devices. A rigorous curriculum units have been developed. Learning has begun to be more personalized. We have a learning management system that is useful and it's able to respond to individual students. And we constantly use data, both internal and external, and we have shown significant improvements.
So the process of these are the members of our steering committee that were engaged as a result of Dr. Shaverhood's letter sent out, message from the top. And these are the members of each subsequent priority group. We met on this would be the 5th occasion, once a month. We collected notes from those meetings. We wrote those notes up, sent them back out to the steering committee. Once we received approval from the steering committee, they were posted online on our website. The point, obviously, is to be as transparent and open with this process as possible, and make it available to people.
All right, hello.
Hello.
To start, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. Schwam and Superintendent Shaverhood and the rest of our staff, faculty, and administration and the Strategic Plan Steering Committee for allowing the students to be able to have a part in this process. My name's Indiana Troop, and among many other things at Wareham High School, I'm the junior class president and also a student council member. As you all know, I'm a big advocate for student voice, so opportunities like this one really make me happy to be in a school that values our opinions and feedback. For the past couple of months or so, Dr. Schwam has attended 2 of our student council meetings to present the strategic plan process and plan to us all, as well as gather input from us. And not only were we able to review the plan and understand the motives of our education better, but we also got some remarkable words of wisdom from Assistant Superintendent Schwam that really stuck with a lot of us. The strategic plan was then shared with the students to get feedback from us. I can say firsthand that while many of the students reviewed the plan at great details and lengths, the work the steering committee and the administration did on this plan was so phenomenal that there was almost no revision suggestions, if not none. Student council students also were able to help gather ideas for the new Wareham Public Schools brand. So our student council representatives decided to create a Google form that was shared with all schools in the district where all students had the opportunity to vote on the ideas. And student council also came up with, as well as shared, their own thoughts and ideas surrounding Wareham Public Schools to help with this brand. And also coming up, we have art class students who will be working on a new logo for the district, which is very exciting. I know the rest of the student council and I are super excited to put this plan into action together with the rest of our school community. And we're even more excited that this plan is something that we can fully agree on and endorse. I want to keep it brief, so I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Schwam, but if anyone has any questions about the student council's involvement in this process or any other questions you'd like answered from the students about this process or the plan in general, I'd be happy to answer them for you at the end. And thank you all.
Thank you so much.
This slide, WPS 2026, identifies the promises and priorities to encourage stakeholders to cultivate the very best of what it means to be human. We need to pay close attention to those skills: critical thinking, reflecting, self-knowledge, communication, assessing, analyzing, expressing empathy, and compassion. Our priority is to prepare our students for their future, and it's vital that we take into account all of these ideas, ways of thinking, because our students deserve the very best.
I reflect often. And while researching strategic planning and reading many articles and books, I had questions in my mind about how to proceed. Those questions started with, how do we impress upon our students the rewards they can experience when they become educated? How do we promote, teach, share, and demonstrate what it means to live a great life? Are the skills we promote transferable? What do our students need to live a life full of meaning? A couple of years ago, while taking a class for assistant superintendents, one of the instructors mentioned the powerful book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He was a psychiatrist that was imprisoned during the Holocaust. He and his family were all taken to such camps. He lost his beloved wife and both parents and was the only one in his family to make it out alive. Frankl spent his life helping others find meaning in their life and work. While in prison, he came to the realization that the only thing he could truly control was his attitude. We are so fortunate to be in a position to find the magic in our students and help them find meaning, discover their why. It is an honor, a privilege, and a responsibility. I am incredibly blessed. I discovered my meaning and why when I became a teacher 24 years ago. Before deciding to go to college at 25, after dropping out of high school at 16, life was difficult and I faced many challenges. Since then, every college degree has been inspired by a desire to learn more about how to better serve others and be a power of example. I always believed that if I was going to convince others that nothing is more powerful than education, it was my duty to take it to the end. It would be incredible to offer instruction to the students in Wareham that help them find their truth, have meaning, and be impactful. The message here is if I can do it, anyone can. I have spent the last 24 years waking up every day with meaning. I know my why. It is a desire to have a positive impact on those served. It is with meaning that this plan was inspired, and it is with a purpose that I sit here tonight. I would like to now introduce Mr. Palladino to unveil our vision.
Thank you. So, the vision of the grad, which also can be called the portrait of the graduate, this emphasizes a holistic view of the expectations for all students, not just when they graduate from high school, but also from when they matriculate from a grade level. These include transferable skills, content, understanding, and dispositions that a student should have at the time of matriculation or graduation. And our vision of the graduate is Wareham Public Schools promises to provide opportunities for all to discover the greatest versions of themselves by acquiring knowledge, wisdom, and skills to explore, formulate, realize, and reflect. We will think critically, communicate, and persevere. With tenacity and trust, we will continue to learn all that is essential to live our best lives and positively impact the community and the world. So that's our vision of the graduate for the district, and I'm excited that we will have a K through 12 continuum. Traditionally, this is a 9 through 12 NEAS requirement, so we're very excited to have it, actually pre-K, I should say, through 12. Thank you.
So the vision of the plan is the same as the vision of the graduate. We combine them, one and the same. Makes sense. And here's our learning model, responding to the challenges we have before us. Here are the priorities and a quick view of, hopefully this will be everywhere. This is our goal, this is what we'll focus on. Hopefully it's easy to understand and grab hold of for everyone. This demonstrates how we can act upon the vision, basically.
Okay. Next is Mrs. Cote.
Good evening, everyone. So we had quite the wonderful experience on our committee. We had Sarah Russo, who's the assistant principal at Deacon's, Miss Murphy, who's the assistant principal at Minot, Mrs. Breeze, who's the English department chair at Wareham Middle School, Mike Murray, who's the humanities department chair at the high school, Andrea Erickson, who's the integrated arts department chair at the middle school, Michelle Medina, who is the math and foreign language department chair at the high school, and Mr. Brajali, who is the school committee member and community member who assisted us in our meetings. And it was really a representative, which was nice to see from pre-K through 12. So that was an exciting committee. We had a lot of ideas, and we were very, I bet you're surprised, but straightforward and getting the process done. So our promise, as always, is to focus on our students. Empower their voice, and provide authentic standards-based assessments through best teaching practices. We discussed the priority standards. That would be a continuation. So we really had a great strategic plan that provided us for the last three to 5 years. a focus. So we really wanted to focus on what those priority standards that we thought would move us ahead and really bring us to the next level. And we really could encompass pre-K through 12. That was our strongest, our focus. So the priority standards that you see in front of you are pre-K through 12 that have had the strongest impact on our students' growth and development. The priorities we have developed will enhance the programs and initiatives we already have in place and bring us to the next level. These programs and initiatives include IB diploma program with MYP, hopefully starting at the high school and coming soon, consistent benchmarks across all grade levels, literacy initiatives, data and content meetings vertically from grade to grade and as well as horizontally across the curriculum areas, team teaching with common planning time, unit development and revisions to include student choice and voice, and global awareness, performance-based assessments and development, new curriculum pilots and adoptions, scheduling and course offerings updated, and STEAM and continued focus on our students' talents, including the arts. Given our promise and our priorities in scholarship and student learning, we believe our students will be active learners that are globally minded and have the intellect and skills to pursue lives that are of purpose and meaning, guiding them to their why.
Like, is Bethany Chandler to come up, please?
Thank you, everyone. The Social Emotional Learning Committee was comprised of guidance counselors, Mrs. Hokinson, Dr. Mike Janicki, who's with us tonight. Thank you, Mike. Social workers, Heather Foster, physical education teachers, Ms. Stalmer and Mrs. Semple, and classroom teacher, Mrs. DeGrace. We began, of course, by all getting to know each other because we are the social emotional group. So we got to know each other and understanding our own philosophies of social emotional learning and well-being. We spoke about the district's accomplishments already in this area and what we need to do and how we need to continue to grow in social emotional learning. Our group spent a lot of time working through the wording in our promise. We recognized how crucial it was not just for students to be social emotionally aware, but for all of the staff members of Wareham Public Schools to be socially emotionally aware because we are emotional beings. So we include all stakeholders in our promise. By including staff and students, we are ensuring that all of our community will continue to gain social emotional skills to promote our well-being. Included in the priorities of social emotional learning, we spoke to the importance of building strong social emotional students who will develop the social skills needed to gain confidence and build upon their character by being able to believe that if I am socially and emotionally aware, then I will have the confidence to positively influence the decisions I make. And so we're going to look for and listen for our self-management skills, building upon who we are and recognizing who we are as people, and developing our emotions and recognizing our moods on our mood meter. I don't know if the district is aware, but we were, some of us were already trained in ruler training through Yale University, and through that work, we recognize a lot about our emotions and how to tell our emotions and who we are to impact the decisions we make. So it's a lot about now putting into this plan, teaching our children how to recognize their moods, their emotions, in order for them to be able to make smart decisions. So that's a lot about what we're doing in this new strategic plan for social emotional learning. You're welcome.
And next, I would invite Mr. Palladino to come up.
Thank you. For Community College Career and Life Inspired, the members of the team, Amy Dion, WHS Business, Art, and Science Department Chair, and I know she's here today. Joanne Gibbs, the Deaconess Assistant Principal, Jane Fondulis, the Director of Beyond School Time and the Principal of the Co-op, Catherine Frayne, the WMS Special Education Department Chair, and I know she's here tonight, Richard Swenson, Community Member, Judy Whiteside, Select Woman and Community Member, and myself, Scott Palladino. So, promise. We promise that students will have greater exposure to a variety of opportunities and will be prepared to make impactful life choices as they progress. These opportunities will look a bit different based on the grade level and school. Our goal is to keep the curriculum and course offerings current based on the needs of the students and the community. Our priorities are to provide as many opportunities or pathways for students to explore pre-vocational and vocational courses before they graduate from high school. We will provide rigorous, real-world opportunities in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We will continue to build our network and partners of professional organizations and businesses from within the community. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. So we had the professional learning team here, and I want to thank Sandy Pont, who was my co-leader. I had a co-leader because on the very first meeting I had a family emergency, so I went to Sandy with all of my material, and she graciously just took over and took the ball and ran, so I was very grateful for that. Melissa Fay was on our team, Kathleen Bolio, Sue Tabor, who's here this evening, Ashley Yates, Anne-Marie Fillion, and Pam Schluter. Pam is a retired school teacher, so it's always great to see them coming back. Professional learning is critical enough that we wanted to be sure that we separated it from the scholarship promise that's made in this plan, and it speaks to all of the other promises and the priorities. After holistically examining the past, the present, and the future of professional learning in the district, the focus became how could we be assured and assure all stakeholders that our teachers are modern teachers who are prepared for our student needs. And boy, did they get training in that this year. Multiple professional development plans were looked at from other districts as part of the training that we did. They were researched, examined, as were the resources that we already have in our district, and there's plenty of them. What emerged was not only a need to meet the individual learning needs for our teachers, but also to be explicit in our expectation that professional learning will align with the promises made in this strategic plan, in the district goals, in school-based action plans, teachers' individual goals, because we make sure they're all linked together. Additionally, it should address meeting the needs for IB, portrait of the graduate that we've heard, digital convergence, and the social emotional well-being of both the students and the staff. Each of our professional learning offerings should be easily identified to something that exists or something that we are working to provide. This is where the Modern Teacher platform provided a structured template that was both flexible enough to meet diverse professional learning, yet it offered a concrete path to follow. This platform was instrumental in the district's successful transition to remote and hybrid learning this year. The priorities you see have evolved from this process and will build on the existing momentum toward rigorous and aligned learning paths. Also recognized was that all staff needed to feel supported, excited, and valued throughout their professional learning experiences. The desire was to be collaborative, transparent, creative, innovative, and thoughtful. Measurement for the success of these priorities will include school quality measure surveys of teachers and students, the completion of the identified modern teacher models that we've chosen, and utilizing common planning time to foster effective professional learning teams within the district in each building.
And finally, I would like to ask Bonnie LaSorsa to come up and share about digital convergency. I would also share with the committee that on July 1st, Mrs. LaSorsa is stepping out of her role as a teacher at the middle school and moving into technology as the director of technology. So we're thrilled to welcome her to our central office team, as I know Mrs. Cote is very sorrowful to lose her.
Thank you very much. Little bittersweet seeing those students leave yesterday for the last time, but I'm excited about the new challenge. So members of our team was Ms. Christine Suckow, the district business manager, Ms. Terry DiFilippo from Minot, she's a dean and also an expert in technology, Mr. Tom Worthen, a Town of Wareham Finance Committee member and community member, and Mr. Jeff Sweat, chair of the new building committee. You have a really long one, community member and recently elected school committee member. So as a math teacher, the first step that we had to take was to define what digital convergence actually meant and what a digital ecosystem was. So to us, it meant that our hardware, software, and digital resources are integrated seamlessly. Our goal is to create a system where all stakeholders, students, teachers, administrators, faculty, parents, are able to access information and tools regardless of both the device type that they use and their location. We reflected on where we are now, which has been a huge change during this school year, technology-wise, and recognized the need for a divisive and decisive plan to integrate our digital ecosystem. Our plan will incorporate continuing evaluation of both where we are right now, where the industry standards and best practices are, and to where we are going, and will influence our a much clearer path moving forward. Thank you.
So now it is your turn.
Okay. Go ahead, April.
Okay, so I don't know who each question would be directed to, so I suppose whoever feels that they could best answer. I was just, as everyone was presenting, which thank you all, it was great from hearing from all of you, but I was writing notes so I could go back to my questions. So I know that when you guys were talking about, this one might go under technology and for kind of moving forward, is remote learning something that's going to be something that would be an option even if only for snow days or for attendances to help with those numbers? And is that something that DESE has looked into for different districts, if that's something that helps students stay engaged when they're not able to physically in the building? And now that we know that we have the ability to make that happen, is that something that is a possibility going forward so that kids aren't losing days, whether they're able to not physically be in the building or if there was a snow day or some other sort of state of emergency?
Andrea, do you want?
The Department of Education is supporting brick and mortar face-to-face learning. They're basically going back to what they had before COVID. We are exploring opportunities. There's the latest and greatest. There's an application that's due July 2nd, I believe, on that they are only going to allow a very select few schools to offer what you're talking about.
Sort of like a pilot program almost?
No, they're calling it a waiver. It's through the waiver process. And so I've begun the application process for the possibility, but it's a remote, no pun intended, possibility that will be approved, but we will try. We will do our very best, and it would be for a few students. It's not an overabundance of students overall. I think most students are happy to be back and want to be engaged, but I'm talking exactly about not necessarily emergencies like snow days, but I'm talking about other situations that warrant that kind of opportunity, right? So I'm giving those examples in the application, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say, I know in the past there's been talk about almost like an academy, like a separate school. This was months ago when we didn't know when remote. And I read recently that Worcester was looking into that, and they stopped because they wouldn't have enough students. And I thought, if Worcester doesn't have enough students, you know,
Well, I
Wareham
just
would
wasn't
never.
thinking so much like of a specific cohort of students to remain remote, but on, right, to have that possibility, whereas kids wouldn't lose a day of learning should something come up. That was more my question. My next question is possibly more directed towards Mr. Palladino. I know that when Abby was presenting the very impressive list of colleges that our Wareham Public School students have been enrolled. Do we have any idea percentages of those students enrolled that have graduated from those institutions, and what the difference between the initial enrollment and the actual graduation percentages?
So through Naviance, we're able to track the number of students that enroll, and we can look at the percentage that graduate. It's been, I think this is, and Mike Janicki can probably answer this, I think this is our 5th year of Naviance. Oh, actually, Dr. Schramm can answer that. She's very involved with it. I think this is our 5th year, so we're probably about a year or two away from really being able to get significant data on that. But the tough part is, because I've done some research through College Clearinghouse, the tough part is, you know, why would a student not finish? And what we found is a lot of times there's financial barriers. It's not lack of skill, it's lack of funding. So it's kind of frustrating when we do get those numbers, because I have a ballpark for where they'll be, and it is frustrating.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So my next question is, I know that there was great mentioning, and we do have the great programs of the IB and the AP, and then a lot of the amazing early literacy programs, and both of those were mentioned in a lot of these presentations. But what, if anything, is being done to engage and prioritize the middle of the road students and try to get them more engaged or more interested or involved in other things, if there's a plan for that?
You want me to answer? Do you want it?
Tracy?
So I think our whole student learning plan is really on student choice. So if the arts is the road that you want to go to, I think you'll see with the new elementary school that it's focusing on STEAM and the arts. There'll be that choice. Foreign language is being introduced at the early elementary school, and that will be just pre-K through 12. So we're trying to have that continuum. So choice and voice, and I think you'll see that pre-K through 12, so that there's a road for all children. So you're talking about a middle of a road child. Are we all middle of the road children and we just don't know what we want to do? Probably. So if you hear through our strategic plan, it's the why. So what's my why? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? And how do I fulfill that? So it's exploring and engaging students from an early age, from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade, and exploring different avenues. At 18, do I really know what I want to do for the rest of my life? Probably not. But if I explore different avenues, can I get to that point? Can I have a purposeful life, and can I choose that life? So that's really what our plan encompasses, and that's what we hope to provide really from pre-K to 12.
Thank you. My next question, sorry if I have a lot, guys, but there was a lot of information, so I was trying to be organized. With the one-to-one technologies and hotspots that we've had and have been able to offer for all grade levels, is that something that's going to continue with the upcoming school year, regardless of the remote access? Will the lower elementary kids that normally didn't have access to technologies at home still be given technologies at home to help sort of piggyback on what they're getting in the in-person learning?
It's our expectation that everybody is back. And yes, even if the child is back, we do anticipate that everybody will have the one-to-one. As far as bringing it home in the younger grade levels. That's really a building level decision that we're in the process of talking about. One of the things that we look at with that is how do we get it back and forth safely? Because we do not have, our Chromebooks do not have the covers that are shock-proof, and we've had several dropped. We know that that's a real, something that we keep at the forefront of our mind.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, the public school support have a lot of support system for recent grads with, do they have any support systems in place or plans for those students that aren't showing an interest necessarily in going to college, but is there support for post-graduation for those students that don't necessarily have college plans, that have either work or military plans, to help sort of almost like a fifth year, a second year senior that will help them with those decisions without necessarily having a guidance counselor technically like they would while they're a senior, to help figure out where they're at if they're taking a year off or deciding to enlist in the military or deciding to just join the workforce? Do we have any supports or plans for supports in place for those students that may not be academically driven?
So in regards to a gap year, which is part of your question, the guidance counselors are their guidance counselors for as long as they need them. Now, obviously, it's going to look a little different when they're not enrolled in school, but they're there to support them post-high school. As far as career readiness, we have multiple classes that we offer upperclassmen for career readiness, and the guidance counselors do a great job with all the local militaries as well. So I think the students are career ready when they walk out of school if they want to join the workforce. The military, in a traditional setting, is in almost every month working with our students. As you know, we have a very strong JROTC program as well that works with our students, sponsored by the Army. So I think there's plenty of help available if students need it, not only at the end of their high school career, but also post-high school career.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, April. Kevin, go ahead.
My question centers around kind of the measurability of this plan. I think the goals are worthy and very professionally done. But in terms of like concrete benchmarks on different years, what's a 5-year plan? What do we hope to have accomplished maybe after year 1 or year 2, 3, 4 in order to achieve the plan at the end? I know we don't really address that in a concrete fashion here, and I was wondering how we can assure that that will happen.
Well, from this point, we'll collect the professional staff survey data that we gave at the end of this year, as well as the school quality measure data, which we've been given to staff now 2 years. So we'll have last year's data as well as this year's data, and connect that data, those questions, to the specific initiatives that were named in the look for and listen fors, right, the actions. The administrative team, the whole leadership team, gets together on the afternoon of August 23rd and 24th, and we go through all of those, that we'll go through the new plan, we'll go through all of the different goals, and we'll look at the data. Then they get together through each of their subsequent groups and begin to pick out, using the data, what areas they want to focus on for the current year. And then we measure again. Right, so it sort of builds on itself, and as they become successful with each of the initiatives that they choose to focus on, we see that progression of growth, and we use other data too, academic data, discipline data, attendance data, anything we can get our hands on, and formulate the overall plan with input from all of them. And it seems, because we continue to go back, that we gain every year every time we move ahead. So it's not as though we could necessarily say, in 1 year we're going to have this completely done. The high schools could say, we're going to make sure that in 80% of our course and our classes that student choice and voice is prevalent. We know this because we have this measure, and we have this work to show us that. And I'll wait to hear from them, and that will be their goal.
So each school then could have different benchmarks? It wouldn't be district-wide?
Each school has decides that for them. They look at their audience, they look at their people, they see where they are, and they make decisions based on that. At least that's what we've done in the past.
So I guess like just to take a specific example, when you say you want to increase collaboration skills in students, that's a worthy goal. But how do we know it's being done? Like in elementary schools, what does that look like? In middle school, what's that look like? Is it by department, by grade, by time of year? I guess that's what I'd be looking for, something a little more concrete.
I think when the principals and their leadership teams get together, and we come back to present their plans, which we do. We have a date in November, I believe, on a Tuesday. We'll come back and they will present what it is that they plan to do. I think that you'll be able to see it more clearly. Often there's connectivity between school and school because this plan gives the global overview, and usually there's similarities between the choices in each of the schools, but it also allows for autonomy and to be considerate of the people that they serve and the students that are in front of them, because it does look different in every school.
Right, I just don't want it to be overwhelming. There's a lot of worthy priorities here, and how do we prioritize those priorities? What do we start to do?
I get it.
And realize that it's 5 years. It's a 5-year
5
plan. It's not
years.
going to happen overnight.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on that, but we'll also keep check and come back around and see if that process helps to formulate that a little bit.
Okay.
Jeff, before I go to you, can I ask a follow-up question to Kevin's question before I forget what it is? Do you mind? So I understand what you're saying, that pieces of the plan are identified and worked on for that year, right? Could it ever happen that a piece of the plan might be missed over that, not missed, but not completed because it wasn't identified as a priority by that school over those 5 years, that other things rose to the top? Would that ever happen?
I suppose to some degree, but what actually I think happens more often is that the ones that are the most important ones, or the ones that have the greatest impact, seem to be the ones that rise to the top. And they, the other ones maybe don't become as important. So in other words, through the process, I think what happens is the priorities are determined and they're driven by what happens. What do we see? What's being created? What's the data telling us? And then when we come back again, we look at that and we say, maybe that wasn't such an important priority.
Well, I think you probably did a little bit of that when you looked at the previous plan.
Exactly.
And, okay.
And I think we need to look at the evidence. So we look at our evidence, so the surveys, we talk to the parents, we look at our student data, and we say, all right, we really sucked at this. Like, this needs to be a focus for us. But it might be a focus for the middle school, but it might not be a focus for the high school.
Right.
So the summer work, what Dr. Schwam's talking about, is really important. So we reflect on, which we don't really want to reflect on last year, but we reflect on last year and our accomplishments, right? And that's great. We're like, oh my God, we did all these things. Basically last year it was we survived, right? But in previous years, these are all the things we did. This is what the data is telling us, and probably this is what we should focus on. So then we create our evidence. This is what we want to see. This is what we're going to do. This is what we want to see. And then we base our evidence on that in the next year. And then we report out to all of you, this is how we did. So this is just a map of what we all want to focus on. And sometimes our focuses are different because really pre-K through 12, there's a huge span. So we take this plan, but this is our guidance. And we talk about it in the summer. The high school will present their plan, the elementary school will present their plan, the middle school will present our plan, and then we'll be like, oh, maybe we should change this. The high school had a great idea. And we just feed off of each other and collaborate with each other. And we really like our school improvement plan. It's something, at least I say to my team, it needs to be something tangible. I don't understand those words you're saying. What does that look like? I need to know what it looks like because the school committee is going to ask me, what did you do? And
I think that's what Kevin's asking.
We want that to be tangible. What is that going to look like in the end, and how are we going to know if we accomplished it? And so we really focus on that. At the middle school, we put together throughout the year, I'm like, all right, we'll add to this. Like, what did we do now? We were going to forget what we did after the year. Like, what did we try to do, and did we really accomplish it? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But then, like Kevin said, it's a 5-year plan. So really, when we got to the end of this 5-year plan, we were like, all right, like, we really focused on this. Before, I'd have to say, it was kind of just words on a piece of paper. And if it doesn't have meaning to us, then it doesn't have meaning to us, you know?
And
So-
Okay.
And we've also been collecting data for, what, six years. So we've been tracking what's been occurring, and then the teams take that data and say, yeah, we saw a huge jump in this, or boy, we really missed that. So that's when they go back, they work, they set up their action plans, and they move forward.
Yes. And Mrs. LaSource just said, but she doesn't want to get up here, that what we really do at the beginning of the year is say to the staff, here's the plan, here's the school improvement plan. Do you want to change it? Do you want to add to it? And do you want to tie your goals to it? So the department chairs, I'm sure, at the high school and the middle school and the elementary school, like, really focus, like, this is going to be a team goal. We're going to work towards this. So it's all tied. Our goals are tied to that. And then admin look, all right, well, they're tying their goals to this. Then we should probably tie our goals to this too. So
You're saying that this is going to drive your school improvement plan?
it has to.
And I'm going to assume that the 6 years of data that you were talking about, Dr. Shaverhood, informed a lot of what's already in this plan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything has to tie back to this. So if you're questioning something that's in it, now's the time to question it, because this will drive our next 5 years.
Okay. Sorry, Jeff. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
No apology. First, I'd like to thank all the educators who are in this room and my fellow community member, Tom Worthen, for being here. It's really nice of you to be here. Thank you very much. I have three questions, or three comments, questions. The first one is for Dr. Schwam. I am really unimpressed with the fact that DESE doesn't like certain things or like certain things, because I think they're fundamentally, or too often, a political organization rather than an educational organization. So am I correct that the only enforcement mechanism that they have with respect to us providing ad hoc remote education, which my colleague mentioned and I feel strongly about, is really to basically say, well, the school student isn't here, they're absent, and therefore we get dinged for some absenteeism rate when the fact the student has not been absent and they've been educated on that day? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. So ask me how much I care about that.
Ask me.
Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, we have 350 or whatever school committees, communities, and we have a lot of legal authority. And whether you get that waiver or not, I would strongly recommend that we pursue it anyway, because we are a student-centered community and school district, and if that's in the best interest of our students, we should do it, and DESE can, well, I won't say what I'm really thinking, but that's one person's comment about it, so I think I have at least one advocate on the school
Well, I
committee.
was going to suggest, because I have been on the MASC resolutions delegate for Wareham, that would be something to reach out to some of the other school committees and see if that could be presented as a resolution maybe at the fall MASC conference, and see if other towns would be willing to support that idea if that's something that their district is able. I know that there are some districts that weren't necessarily able to provide the kind of technology support that we were able to give our students. But for those students in those districts that are able to, I don't see it being, I think it's more beneficial to the children to have that as an option than to not have it as an option when the whole state put in so much work and effort to being able to synchronously educate our students, that it would be a detriment to all the work you guys put in for the last year and a half to just have it be like, okay, we're done with that now, bye.
So I do think that I will reach out to some other school committee members that were delegates with me previously and figure out how a resolution gets proposed, because they do come from individual school committees.
I have, as you know, a lot of experience with MASC and Resolutions Committee and Board of Directors, et cetera. Good luck with that, and in terms of it having an actual impact. But nevertheless, go for it, okay? The second question is really directed towards the principals. I would like to know whether the strategic plan will have any impact on the course of studies that you plan to present to your students. And it's not just Mr. Palladino. Anybody who's a building principal, I would be happy to hear.
I've talked too much tonight.
This is my last time up. So Tracy explained it, I think, precisely as far as how it impacts the school as a whole. You know, you have the umbrella of the strategic plan, then you have the school improvement plan, then you have departmental improvement plans, and then you have the staff with their goals, student and professional practice goals. And absolutely, at the department head level, this is where we would see a change in recommendations for course of studies. It could happen at the principal's level, but we like it to happen organically at the department level.
Can you give us an example of what might be deleted or added
Sure.
or whatever?
Sure. So there was a push, excuse me, at the beginning of my tenure, there was a push for students to have technological skills to be able to do presentations. So we had a technology design lab class that quite frankly ran its course, and what we found, as I'm sure you know, the students already have the skills they need technologically by the time they enter high school, so it was kind of a mute class. And we really felt, and obviously there's enough studies that are out there based on, personal finance and this personal finance skills, and the business department felt that there needed to be more of a push locally for us to have students graduating with the financial skills that they need. So the business department, as part of their goals, did a study and spoke to students and got feedback from the staff and created more personal finance. Now it's called financial literacy for teens, and it's actually a graduation requirement. And it all happened through this process, through these conversations, through the departmental improvement goals. There's many other examples that I could give you, but I don't want to bore you tonight.
You're not boring me, and I applaud that particular example that you did.
I knew you'd like that one.
But over the next 5 years, can you anticipate anything that might occur?
I hope we're working on creating pathways where we can identify what students can kind of minor in or major in throughout the high school. So for instance, we're looking at a criminal justice angle. We offer a ton of courses already in this area, cybersecurity, forensic science, et cetera. And looking at other ones, obviously there'd be a business, there could be an art. So creating these pathways, I think, is something you'll see possibly as early as December of this year when we come back for our course of studies approval.
Anybody, any other principals who want to speak to that?
So as far as the impact coming from the professional learning committee that we did, we looked at the different modules that Modern Teacher offers, and we've been able to go through 2 or 3 of them already this past year. And that's what drove the professional development for the teachers and developing their learning plans and their playlists and their Google Classrooms and everything. So the PD that we're giving to the teachers is then transferring down to the students, because the students can then access what they need. When we are looking ahead in the next 5 years with this strategic plan, we looked at additional modules that are available to us, and we're going to be using them and capitalizing on those. So when you look at the Architect of a Learner that we had presented earlier this evening, there's one on rigorous instruction. Those are the things we'll be presenting to our staff that will then impact our students.
So it's not so much a content as a methodology that you're describing.
It actually is both. It's the methodology that the teachers learn, which then transfers in their teaching instruction in the content. Student-centered. Yeah, and it's student-centered, so.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, just for the record, I will never be bored with you speaking.
Okay. And it impacts our curriculum, right? Because Mrs. LaSourcer, again, will explain that, like, when
I
we
never
had...
thought of Bonnie as bashful.
When we had the student voice and choice, like, she implemented things in our curriculum. And she'd be like, well, they didn't like it, Tracy. You know, like, so I'm like, well, shoot, what are we going to do now? You know, like, so it impacts what we do within each of our curriculums. And it will impact what courses we're offering. I mean, elementary and middle are limited at what courses we can offer, but it always impacts the structure of our curriculum. When we explore student voice and choice, what we thought they wanted, they really didn't want. So.
Good, thank you. And since, oh, go ahead.
One more. I mean, why not? So earlier I presented on social emotional learning. And it's just fascinating over years how the ebbs and flows of curriculum goes in not just the state of Massachusetts, but in our nation. And when I began teaching in the 1900s, I learned a lot about responsive classroom, open circle, and social emotional learning was at a forefront. And then when MCAS became prevalent, we went into an academia mindset. Strong academic, putting standards on the walls, making sure that every child was meeting every academic standard possible, until we recognized that data in the mid-2000s that students were suffering from trauma, a lot of trauma going on in homes. Social emotional welfare became paramount once again. We are just ending a pandemic where children are coming back into school full time. So social emotional well-being is at a forefront once again. And so it needs to be embedded in our curriculum, our academic curriculum. But it's just like technology. It just needs to be embedded throughout the day, recognizing that we're emotional human beings, that we have feelings, and those feelings need to be recognized. So our job, the SEL committee, is to make sure that, and the school and the principals, to embed social emotional learning into the constructs of our curriculum again.
So you seem to be describing a pendulum.
It's so true.
But a pendulum, neither extreme is probably correct. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Needs to meet in the middle.
Right, okay, as long as we're on the, okay.
I think Wareham's on that. We're on that. I think that others swing.
Okay,
Are,
thank you.
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that I think that's why this is so relevant. It has been relevant all along, but now, again, there is a lot of research on this. There's a lot of material out there, a lot of curriculum for us to use that's really up and coming and going to be very helpful for our students and our staff.
Since the students volunteered to come back, I have a question for them. Could you come back to the front? So I will admit, even though I'm a member of the Strategic Planning Committee and was privileged to be a part of that process, and I've read the document, studied the document, as this was being presented tonight, it occurred to me that, and maybe it's because I feel like I've been bombarded by this issue over the last several years, it occurred to me that the concept of good and evil, morality and immorality, empathy, all those things that are critical to our character, our personalities, and the actions that we take and the decisions that we make. My question for you is, should educators be involved in teaching things like morality, or is that something that, in fact, should be left at home or for religious organizations? And how much of it do you think you're getting now?
Well, it's funny you say that because in my AP Language and Composition class, we do something called a weekly question. And our teacher, Mr. Wilson, he posed a question to us in our last term, and it was something very similar to what you just asked. And basically, he was asking how we view morality And if that's something that is taught to us, and what I learned from that and what I wrote in that response is that we grow up learning what's wrong and what's right and what's good and what's bad. And really, as you grow up, you learn that sometimes there's not always good and evil, and sometimes there's not always wrong and right. And I think that's something that our teachers and our staff, and that's something we've learned as we've grown up through school and all of that and everything we've done. So I think...
So in your mind, educators should play a role, at least in having you think about what's good and evil, what's moral and immoral, what's amoral. You think they should play a role?
I think they should play a role, sure, but like I said, I think it's difficult when a teacher starts telling someone what's wrong and what's right and what's moral and what's not, because sometimes there's not always good and evil and moral and immoral.
But asking you to think about it is fine, as compared to making that decision for you.
I think so, yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Abby?
I'm in an IB, or I was, actually I finished that class, but I was in an IB environmental class, and it was the first IB class I've ever taken. And part of that program is like open discussions. And so with the environment and everything that's going on with the climate, we had a lot of discussions about what's happening and what do we think about it and what's wrong and what's right. And you know, it's like, it's a domino effect. When something bad happens here, you have to spend money to fix this problem. And so we talked a lot about like things that were considered kind of sensitive and that could like turn political. And I think it was nice that we could openly discuss it. And sometimes like people's opinions differed, but it was, I see it in some of my classes, like talking about morals and stuff.
So you appreciate the fact that it was raised so you could think about it.
Yeah.
Did you think the teachers were in a difficult position of trying to talk about it without taking a political position or an environmental position or whatever? Do you think that's something that educators should be asked to do?
Well, the class is set up in a way that like we could pick a side and we could be comfortable with that. Like we could have a difference of opinion with each other and we could talk about it, and it didn't feel as pressured. It didn't really feel political. Like we were allowed to discuss.
So the students picked a side, but the teacher didn't?
Well, our teacher did have opinions about like the environment, and obviously like he's an environmental teacher, so he, you know, sided with the planet. And some kids like it was cool to see. I appreciated that. I appreciated that there was an open discussion in class about things that we could see a difference in opinion on, and since it was an IB class, everybody was mature enough to handle it. I really appreciated that instead of just being lectured.
And our teachers, all of our teachers are very, very professional and know if they are crossing a line with a discussion, and they know where to take the discussion so it stays professional, which is really great.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So what you're saying is there was respect for different opinions.
Yeah.
See, one of the criticisms of the place that you're going to be in, not that far from now, of universities is they are no longer bastions of free speech. That there's a political view and that's it, and you better get on board. And I'm really happy to hear that Wareham Public Schools is not that way, that you can have different opinions and be respected. Yes?
Yeah.
I hear you. You two have made my evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for the kids too, because
hold
I
on,
was going to
guys.
ask them also. But to Jeff's question, I think that nowadays it seems that, you know, we all grew up in varying backgrounds, varying, you know, diversities or lack of, and I think that now it seems that the students are actually teaching us or teaching adults more about their versions of right or wrong, whereas what we may have grown up with, what we thought were right or wrong, have a completely different image than what you guys interpret or understand as right or wrong. And rightly so. The world, the culture, the universe, everything's evolving and it's constantly changing. So I think it seems that the ability to have those open discussions is great, where you guys are also able to educate your educators about, you know, I think, what is the cool term? The wokeness of what's going on in the world and where you guys stand and hearing your voice. So it is great, like Jeff said, that you guys get to have that. But my question is, in regards to the plan as a whole and your involvement with being the voice for your peers, you guys as incoming juniors and incoming seniors, this is your legacy to leave behind for the next 5 years for your fellow students. So what was the greatest focus you guys took, knowing that you've come through Wareham Public Schools your entire educational career, I believe, and what you guys want to see the direction of it go? I know that you guys are both shining examples of the great things that our district has to offer, but what are you guys looking forward to most with working on this plan and leaving behind for those students that will be coming up behind you?
Well, thank you. I would say, I'd say two things. I think one, I said this earlier, I'm very happy that we continue to focus on student voice and student choice and things like that. It's one of my priorities as a student to make sure all of our students are heard. So I'm really happy that that's thoroughly incorporated into this plan. I'd also say I'm very happy that we incorporated social emotional learning into this plan too, and that there was a great focus on that in the plan. And I think that we're going to see that resonate throughout the years too as we leave. And I'm happy to see that take more form in our schools. So.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to be in a community where the students are valued and they're put first, and the teachers respect the students and the students respect the teachers. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
While they're going back to their seats, I would just also, no, you can go back. That's okay. I'm just going to make a quick statement that we heard that they were in IB and AP, and they had these rich, engaging discussions. And I just hope that that makes its way to all the levels, because having those discussions in college prep classes or honors classes or any other level class is what engages students. And hopefully we can do that going forward as well.
Yeah, that's why NYP. That's the whole.
So, Dr. Schwam, that brings up a good point about MYP and IB, and I wasn't going to bring it up tonight, but hopefully at a future meeting, we can hear more about it, the school committee. So we'll talk more about that, because I think there's a lot more to be said and learned about that. So I'm pretty sure all of my questions have been asked. I do want to say thank you to you, and thank you to Dr. Shaverhood, and thank you to everyone in this room, whether you spoke or not. The passion that's just in this room is you know, you can feel it. The kids in our district are so fortunate. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to everyone who is on these committees. It's really an impressive group that got together, especially during the time that we just came out of, you know, to be able to formulate this. A lot of my questions had to do with, you know, measures similar to what Kevin asked, so I won't ask those because you've already answered them. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we ask for a vote?
I would just like to say that during this pandemic, this was a beacon of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Working on this plan and being part of this group and hearing from everyone gave us an opportunity to look toward the future and look toward where we hope to see our kids and our faculty and what could happen here. And it's a very promising, exciting, even when we're down and out, it was just a wonderful experience overall, and I can't thank everyone enough for partaking in it.
Well, when Mrs. Cote was talking about reflecting and, you know, when they reflect on this year, I bet that when that happens, there's you know, things that you don't realize, great things you don't realize are happening until you stop and really think about that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Unit A side letter agreement. Did everyone have a chance to look at that?
I confess to being a little confused. So maybe could I have some context, historical context for what caused this to be generated?
Dr. Shaverhood, do you want to answer that?
Sure. We had talked about this and had agreed to it 2 contracts ago. It had never been updated, and we're just making this agreement current, even though we've been doing it.
Okay, so you've been doing it.
We have.
It's now reflected in the language, and therefore the issue of retroactivity is moot because we've been doing it.
Yes, and we just need this signed that we both parties agree, yes, this really occurred.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you one question about the language, about the word pensionable?
Yes. If it's not in the contract, it does not enter into MTRS to be figured into their retirement
So all stipends are pensionable
in the contract.
in the contract? Okay.
So,
Hopefully.
so does that mean that it's retroactively pensionable?
They've been receiving it.
Right, but if it wasn't in the contract when they were receiving it.
Correct.
You see my point?
It'd be covered.
It would be covered.
We're covering it.
Okay. Okay, so I just asked that we bring this here to a vote before I signed it on behalf of the committee. So I would just ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the monthly financial report.
You have me tonight because our business manager was unable to be here. So in the packet, you received the May financial report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions? No?
Is it's fair to say that when June 30th comes, we will break even? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, when June 30th comes, I would anticipate that our budget will be 0.
That's the right number I was looking
Yes.
for. Yes.
And you could just tell Christine, thank you for adding the totals. I know you had asked her to add the totals, so it is very helpful.
I was hoping for subtotals, but I like the totals.
Well, maybe next year we'll
Okay.
get the subtitles.
I can live with that.
Okay.
Okay, if no one has any questions, we'll go on to the budget transfers.
All right, so as we begin to close this year down, there's some budget transfers that we would ask that are made. You have your list. If you could vote in support, then we will start our process toward getting this to 0. Some of these reflect having to do the personal day buyback, so you do see some money transferred into some salary lines, the retirement incentive, etc.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the transfers?
I just had just a question. Do we have any idea how many number of personal days we saved or absences we prevented from?
Oh, how many absences we prevented. Now, that's an elusive question. We bought back, I believe, 130, I think 130 some days.
Okay.
So technically, I would say that's how many days we saved.
All right. So if there's no other questions, we'll ask for a motion to approve the budget transfers.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, 400. Okay, next on the agenda is obsolete furniture.
Yes. You have the obsolete furniture. We are beginning our clean out of Deacon's. Here is the furniture and items that we would ask that you please vote obsolete. We will begin then disposal.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question on some of these items. I know that the new school obviously doesn't need these items, but like say for like the music stands, are they just damaged beyond repair and can't be moved to the middle or the high school? Okay, that's all I was just clarifying. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm just talking about Deacon's School. I just want to say it was, I don't know what the right word is, but that the fact that town meeting was at Deacon's School was like the last
It was amazing.
hurrah for the schools at Deacon's School. Yeah, it was. It was. Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. Okay, on to the superintendent's newsletter.
Okay, approval of gifts. We have to the DECA High School, $10,752.09 from the boosters. To Minot Forest, $3,000 from Atlantic Subaru, and 6 teachers will receive $500 to spend on classroom supplies. So I would ask the committee to please approve the 2 gifts.
That's amazing. So moved.
Second.
Could I ask just one question real quick? Because I'll approve it, but the Boosters Club, is that boosters in general? Is that athletic boosters? How does, does athletic boosters regularly contribute to non-athletic organizations?
Mr. Palladino.
This is the DECA Boosters Club.
Oh, okay.
And they basically wanted to shut down the operation and just have it run through student activities.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
It was.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400.
Next would be the bill payroll warrants. You have them listed. I would ask for your approval for both payroll. There are 4, and bill warrants, 2, 4, 6, 7.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have been asked to join into a lawsuit, mass lawsuit, that would sue Juul for the harmful effects of vaping. This costs the district absolutely no money. From the award, the first year, the attorney's firm would take 20%. If it lasts 6 months or longer than the year, it would be 25%. What we would get out of it would be possible financial benefit to purchase vape detectors to be put in each restroom, and we would be able to have money to hire counselors or people to help with addictions, as well as we would then become available for free educational programs for our students, and hopefully at some point we could spread it to the community. Again, it's no cost to us. It would take about 10 hours, and we would work with the legal firm. So I would ask if there are any questions. If not, then I would ask for your approval. In order for us to join into this lawsuit, you do have to vote in affirmative.
Do you have questions? Go ahead.
I confess I'm not a huge fan of this kind of, litigation. Having said that, there's nothing that would make me happier than to give Harriet Sullivan some more money so that she could continue to do and augment the great work she does for health in the middle school, and maybe that great work is being done in the other schools as well. Do we have any idea how many plaintiffs there are now as of this moment?
No, but the last I heard, there was approximately 200 and some. They're hoping for 400.
Yeah, when you start dividing by big numbers, the amount of money that we can expect to get is really probably insignificant, having been party, not by choice, to these kind of things. I guess I have a question for our middle school and high school principals. How much of a problem does vaping remain in the schools? And I'm hoping it doesn't apply to our elementary schools.
It was a big problem before COVID. Matter of fact, 2 weeks before the 13th of March, we installed vape detectors in our 2 main bathrooms. So it was a problem. I'd say there was a percentage of students that took advantage of using the bathroom. So it was a problem. It's not as big as in other schools, but it's I consider, if a few kids are doing it throughout the day, it's a problem.
Is it is education about the harmful effects of vaping part of our health course?
It all, well, you know, it used to be smoking back in the day. Now it's vaping. We've
Right.
moved on to the 21st century, but the scary part to me is that it's so new. We don't know what the long-term effects are. Cigarettes have been around for over 100 years. We know what the long-term effects are. But it's a very small percentage of our population, but it scares me because, you know, what's going to happen 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road? What are we going to find out? You know, obviously we already have a lot of data and a lot of studies, but what's going to happen down the road? Are we going to see a large population dealing with emphysema or other cardiorespiratory illnesses?
Completely agree with you. It's a huge issue. I wish I thought this litigation would do anything to change anything, but
The best part was when the governor shut it down for, I think it was about 3 months. It just ceased and desisted at that point in time, and it was a null issue. But I think when we're back to full capacity, there'll be, you know, that 3% that dabble in it, that think it's okay to do in the bathroom, that we have to deal with. But we do have the sensors, the students know it, so hopefully that will quell the situation.
At the middle school, it hasn't been a huge issue. It definitely has been an issue, not a huge issue. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers. They tell me that everybody vapes, Mom.
Really?
So
Are the vape detectors, do they deter it?
we don't have the
Oh,
vape
you don't?
detectors, so
I can give you 2 weeks worth of anecdotal stories. It sends us an email or a text when it goes off, but so I think it's a good deterrent. I think just having it there is a deterrent. The fact that they work obviously brings it to another level, but I think sometimes just having that there, the kids realize, oh, I can't, you know.
Because if you're getting a text by the time you get there.
Well, we do have cameras, though, outside the bathroom, so we can see the kids leaving and the kids coming in. We obviously can't see into the bathrooms, but we can see who's going through the threshold.
and we have bathroom monitors. I think that's the key.
It is, and they have to kind of, you know, stick their nose in the threshold and just
Yeah.
make sure, because these do have usually fruity scents.
They have an odor.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I have to confess, I don't know that much about it.
I'm hoping, like I said, it's an issue with a small percentage of students. It wasn't an issue when we came back from COVID, so I don't know if that was, you know, students respecting school more, or if maybe those kids were remote. So we'll deal with it again. I'm sure it will be an issue again in September.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Shaverhood, if we were to vote yes, and then 6 months from now, they made unreasonable requests, and it was more than 10 hours, can we always drop out?
Yes.
You can, okay.
I look at it that if it's the opportunity for, even if it's just the free education, regardless of the detectors, since the high school already has detectors, I mean, it would be nice to be able to provide them to the middle school and the other bathrooms at the high school as well, but, I mean, anything free education-wise, I think is beneficial, whether the outcome is, you know, whatever it is financially divided amongst however many other plaintiffs would be joining the suit, but I don't see harm in trying.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to agree
So moved.
to join?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I guess not. No, I mean, I'm okay.
So you want to vote in the affirmative?
I will vote in the affirmative.
Okay. Opposed, abstained, 400.
Thank you. Okay. The next one would be to request the committee to allow foreign language to be taught in the elementary. This would be one foreign language teacher. It would be an introductory course. We'd look at culture, basic words, hello, goodbye, etc., with the hope in several years of moving it forward into the middle school, perhaps as soon as next year. This also is a benefit to the elementary as it allows for 10 unified arts sections, which will allow every grade level to have a common prep time 1 time a week. And the 10th section is absolutely necessary for that to occur for our teachers.
Does anyone have any questions?
Feel that all the questions were
Oh,
answered
yeah,
at our
so
workshop
the
meeting.
workshop was very helpful, yes. I guess I would just share that I was, the financial piece is the biggest piece for me because, although we haven't had to lately in the past, there's increases every year for staff and, sometimes we're able to absorb those increases better than other years, and that is my only fear. So I came into the meeting not really sure how I was going to vote myself, but after hearing the passion from everybody and going to the future, so I guess I would just say that when I vote yes, it's for this 1 year, for this one spot, and then we'll have to reevaluate it going forward. Is that, Dr. Shaverhood, is that a fair request?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So does someone want to make a motion to approve it?
Jeff has a question.
Oh, Jeff, yes.
I'm going to vote in favor. I share the chair's concern about the finances, but I'm a huge advocate of the MYP program. And I think if that's what it takes to get the benefits of MYP, and specifically for those of you not aware, this has to be continued into the middle school, at least to some extent, for us to be certified for the MYP program, if that's the correct term. Certified, yes? But unfortunately, although there was a huge amount of publicity regarding the Student Opportunity Act that the state legislature passed and the governor signed, the actual impact on Wareham is pretty darn small. So on an ongoing basis, once the federal money dries up, we're going to have some budget issues, and I just hope we don't have to make what we've had to do in the past, some really tough decisions, because I think it's worthwhile, but I'm not sure how we're going to pay for it in the long term.
Well, like you pointed out at the workshop, it's an investment. It's more than just this one investment
Exactly.
in one position.
Exactly. We have to follow through into the middle school, and so that's at least one more position. So I can't predict the future, but I'm a little concerned about it from a financial perspective once the federal money is gone.
No, I mean, I think it has a lot of value, and it will, what it will add in the elementary school is really important. As for the requirements of MYP, that, again, like I said before, is something that I look forward to hearing more about because I don't. So that would be really valuable. Yeah.
So I understand both of your concerns with the budgetary constraints. I think it would be hugely beneficial to put the possibility of enrichment for those students ahead. We have some amazingly resourceful teachers and administrators and deans that have found ways to make things happen when they are passionate about it. And I know that there have been some positions at the middle school that were grant written. So I know that they would turn every corner and flip every page of every book on a national level to find a way to make this happen, as we heard with how passionate and excited that they are. So for me, the money is I know Jeff is very budget conscious. I'm more student conscious, and I would always put that first. And we're that town, Scott said, where there's a will, there's a way. We're gonna find a way to make it happen. If our kids are getting something out of it, we will always find a way to make it happen. So I do agree with the 1 year, see how it goes from there. If there's even any interest, we could implement it, and the students and families might not find that it fits their, what they're interested in moving forward. But I definitely think that we should absolutely give it a try and help, culturally enrich our younger students so that because they do offer language at the middle school, and they obviously do offer language at the high school. And I think that seamless transition and getting them interested in the language younger. I know my son struggled with Spanish, trying to pick it up in the later grades. So I do think that, picking it up younger is going to be more beneficial for kids that are it's easier for them to grasp a secondary language when they're as spongy as they are when they're little.
Oh, no, I totally agree that there's definitely great value to it. It's just, unfortunately, I've been here and I'm sure many others know that at the end of the year, no matter how resourceful we are and how many stones you turn, at the end of the day, there have been cuts, and I just wouldn't want to see that happen. That's all. So, okay. So we'll just work hard to make that happen. That's what we'll do. Anyone else?
I know you didn't mean it the way you said it, but I assure you I am more student conscious.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean that you weren't at all. I didn't mean that you weren't at all, and I apologize that it came out that way.
Okay,
My brain doesn't go numbers first.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Next, the ESSER funds come with requirement to have a committee, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. They're significant amounts, and so we understand the importance of forming a committee. There will be 2 school committee people on it, 3 administrators, 4 teachers, representative of each grade, elementary, middle, and high. We'll have 1 student, we'll have a parent, and I'm really toying with the idea of bringing a community member on as well. I just think it gives us a representative of us, and it allows for the input. The first, I believe it's 1.8, and the next number that we will be working with for ESSER 3 is 4.2. The grant for for ESSER 2 is due the first part of July. We'll be working on that, and I'll be in contact with the members to look at what some of the proposals would be to spend the money on. One of the requirements is for social emotional support, so that will be a piece of what we spend our funds on. The 3 goes until 24. We're anticipating that they might move it to 25, but we don't know that. So that's the makeup of that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Can I ask you a question? And I've asked you this question probably more than once in the past about reporting. So is there a required format of reporting to the school committee? What will that look like?
Well, yes, we certainly will be briefing the committee on where we're going with the charges. And so I think it will probably be done quarterly. And we certainly are keeping very tight books because we do know that we will be required to report it to not only the state, but likely the feds.
So there's no approval by the school committee?
Well, you have 2 members of the school committee that will be on our committee, and I will have to get the details before I answer that, because in my mind, no, we can just spend it, but there might be.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I think Kevin and I have been designated as members of that
As
committee.
members of the Budget
And
Advisory Committee, yeah.
Let me assure you that I think Kevin agrees with me, we will be presenting this with a recommendation for the approval of the school committee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Well, we're talking about significant amounts of money.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
we
so
are.
people understand, 1.8 and 4.2 are millions of dollars.
Mhm.
It's a big sum of money, and how we spend that, because all money is taxpayer money as far as I'm concerned, is critically important. Now, having said that, I completely applaud the makeup of the committee. I think it's going to be a very transparent process, and I think we'll come up with outstanding recommendations.
Yes, definitely.
And I do think that it's very important to make sure whatever cost we use the money on, that if it is not a one-time cost, it's not going to overtax our budget once the money's dried up and put us in a very precarious position.
That's the word I would have used, yes.
Well, thank you for making that, that point, because that's why I'm asking. I'm not asking because I want to know how it's spent, and I want to approve every dollar. I just want to know how it's going to affect our budget. And like you said, some of it will and some of it won't affect future budgets.
And not only that, but I think we also have to be aware of how it affects the town's budget, because if we add staff, that adds benefits. And I just think that we really need to take great care with our decisions because of the long-range implications.
Okay, thank you. That really is the reason
Makes you
I'm
feel
asking.
better, huh?
Yes, thank you.
All
Okay.
right, so if you don't mind, I need to move over here
Sure,
for
go
my
ahead.
next.
So we're moving on to the superintendent's mid-cycle review of her goals.
Reviewing the goals for the evaluation year of August 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2021. I have 3 goals. I can read them to you if you would like, or you can look at them.
Yeah, I don't think you have to read them.
I'm sorry?
I don't think you have to read them.
Thanks, thank you. And in the goals, there are indicators, and that really would really help assess what I've been doing to meet these goals. So the first one is just coordinating and participating in the elementary project, and then reviewing capital needs and working with capital within the district. So my actions I've shared on a regular basis. I make sure that timelines are met, et cetera, but more importantly, I would tell you with the first one, the elementary building, I've not only been a support of others, I've also been a facilitator and at this point, a decision maker because we're down to the crunch where we need to make decisions and so we're moving forward. My day-to-day involvement is significant. I probably spend anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a week solely working with the elementary project, different committees, different meetings, et cetera, working with different groups. The fire department I worked with because we had to design exits, fire exits, so we took the large maps, wrote it all out, then I passed it to the fire department who reviewed it, and then it goes to the builder who then looks at it, and then we can print maps, which is pretty cool because ours are just handwritten in most of the buildings, so this is pretty neat that we'll be able to do that. I also spent a great deal of time in the keying, and so there are so many different layers of keys in that building. You have the master key, you have masters, you have submasters, and then you have all of the individual room keys, how they're distributed, how we're going to use them, and as simple as trying to decide, well, if we have a faculty restroom on one floor, do we want the key to open a different floor faculty restroom? So it's those kind of pieces that it really is drilling into. I've also helped coordinate furniture, overseeing the final process, putting it together, the small wares and the supplies, and making sure that we have included just about everything that we could possibly think of. After that, I'll be walking through. I started my walkthroughs with Bethany today at Deacon's. I'll be doing the same with Joan. We'll be looking at what are we moving, what are we not moving. And so this is quite a very involved process. And as we're down to the very last months, and we have a timeline looming on us where we're affecting students, it's really critical that we spend the time that's necessary to get us to our target date of October 2021. Capitals, let's see, I think I have, whoops. Well, I'm just going to speak to capital, and then we're going to go to this one. You know, one of the things that we've been very fortunate last year and then this year, as we ended in March, we knew that we were going to have some money that we were not going to spend. So we worked with the town, and then in town meeting, they were able to vote $500,000 back to the school that we have really focused on capital expenses. We have looked at our HVAC systems in all our schools. You know, we've had ductwork cleaned and sanitized, and this was the first time probably, what, you think, ever, that we were able to do that. But we know that we're in the place now where we have to continue to be proactive instead of reactive. And we're finally finding ourselves in that position with some things. We have had chillers replaced. We've had fans replaced. We've had other units that hadn't worked for years. We were able to get those up and running. We've replaced the bleachers at the middle school. We've replaced scoreboards. We've replaced textbooks at the high school, biology, chemistry, French, at the middle school, English, math, and science. We've had new flooring put in at the middle school. We've had the gym painted at the high school. We're working on windows at the high school, door replacements. We have new mowers. So our list goes on and on of capital items that thankfully we've had money to put us in this position. Our list goes on, and our goal is to get our buildings in impeccable condition so when we are not reacting. And that will be a wonderful place to be, absolutely wonderful. So we know our work continues to go on. We are just checking it off as quickly as we can, and I really appreciate the principals because they bear with my questions about, well, what about this, what about that, and so their help has just been very welcomed. We've also hired an HVAC person who is taking care of problems that we've not been able to address. I don't think our thermostats have been calibrated for years. We're able to do that. We also have some plumbing that we're going to be looking to address. We're going to look to share a plumber with the town because we do have some issues. And it would be much more cost-effective for us to be able to answer these problems in-house. So that's how we've been addressing my goal number one. Goal number two is increasing student opportunities, an enhancement for student choices, etc. I think you heard that tonight. We, coming back from this last 14 months, and as we watched our students with remote, and we watched our students with the hybrid, we really saw where we had some students struggling, both at the elementary, at the middle, and the high school, and we were able to put in some temporary staff to assist our students that were struggling. We also looked at the data for our remote students, and when we looked at that failure rate, it was significantly higher than our hybrid rate. So that, kind of clued us in that we really needed to do a better job of reaching out, making that contact with students, making sure that we still had that engagement. So, we've employed some social workers to help us do so. We also know that social emotional is so important, and I will tell you I probably have a bias for social emotional and the importance for it, but I also truly believe that if a student is suffering from trauma and some other significant emotional issues, learning isn't going to happen. And until we address those social emotional issues, we might as well just forget about it. And so we've really beefed up our counselors, our social workers, our school psychologists, because the need's so great. And we'll continue to do that. We look at data all the time. It drives everything we do. We look at how we're doing and how instruction is going by the data. So, of course, we always look for opportunities to share that. And our principals and assistant superintendent, we're all the time are collaborating about how do we get this to our teachers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an ongoing thing. The professional development opportunities, it's amazing, all of the opportunities that our teachers have and our paraprofessionals have and our staff have in our district. So we have quite a list of that. And as well as the summer programming, I think that we've shared some information about that with you, but it goes from K through 12, and there's something for everyone, and we really try to reach out. We know it has to be engaging. We know it has to be something that the kids are really going to benefit from, and once again, we look at the data from pre to post. Was it effective? So we'll have that for you. And finally, emotional intelligences, going back to how do we provide opportunities that are engaging to students. I think over the past several years, you've seen in our course selection, different courses, because we know students need relevancy. You heard Mr. Palladino talk about, we're looking at some career options. So how do we take a student from coming into the high school and moving them to where they're ready to enter the workforce? So that's really we're focusing on. And then being able to provide a voice. Tonight, we heard the students say how important their voice was. Well, our teachers and our staff having a voice is equally important, because nobody wants to be in a situation where everything's from the top down. If we want something to work in this district, it has got to be from the bottom up, and there has got to be engagement in who's implementing it. Our job is to remove the barriers and to provide the funding. And so that's really how I look at my role. When we were in the throes of COVID and trying to bring people back, there was a lot of fear. And I made myself available to staff and sat through numerous staff meetings on Zoom, of course, and answered questions, because they need to have trust in what we're doing, how we're doing it, and we need to listen to what they say. And I think there's no greater compliment that we could receive into being thanked for listening and hearing their voice. And so that's certainly is a very high priority, and we'll continue to work toward that. And finally, we have partnerships with so many outside agencies, because we are a community, but we operate within a community, and we have got to have that engagement, because we can't do everything by ourselves. So we're all the time looking for how can we offer a partnership, and how can we help others, but in turn they help us. So we have Buzzards Bay Coalition, South Coast Hospitals, Mass Maritime, the YMCA, Eastern Bank, MIT, and the list just goes on and on. And giving back to our students, making things available for our students and our families is absolutely vital. And I am so proud of our cafeteria staff for all of the work that they've done in this past 14 and a half months, because since July 1st of 2021 through yesterday, we served 523,487 meals.
Wow.
That's amazing. And that was a need. And our school district, our staff stepped up And they worked. They took very few vacations, but they knew our kids needed it, and they were there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Anyone have any questions? Jeff? Questions? No?
Sounds like you feel confident that you're on track with achieving your goals.
I do believe I am, yes. And I hope that you would feel like that as well.
Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't think people understand, and I have the perspective as chair of the school building committee to understand just how much money this superintendent saved this community. We were both lucky and good with respect to how much this project cost. We were lucky because interest rates plummeted, and that reduced the amount of money we had to pay to borrow the approximately 25% it's a little more than that because of a complicated formula, but let's use that number for round numbers. The state's paying about 75% of their reimbursable amount. So we were lucky about interest rates. We were good in the sense that when the time came to make some big decisions, we made the right ones. But we would not have made the right ones if the superintendent hadn't gone along with the recommendation of the project manager. And what recommendation was that? The recommendation was that instead of trying to open, and there's some irony in this, instead of trying to open the school for this September, right? Naturally, you want the school to open at the beginning of the year, right? Our project manager said, you might be able to get more bidders if you opened in January instead of September. Now, Kim is smiling because she now is remembering that moment, and I remember the moment like it was yesterday, because I expected Kim to say, why would we want to open a school building in January when we could prepare for the opening all summer and then just opening? It would be much smoother. Let's go for September. Instead of saying that, she said, January is fine. The impact of that one decision was to increase the number of bidders that we got and to make sure that the bidders were fighting and to be as competitive as possible, so that instead of the taxpayers being charged, I'm doing this from memory, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, something like 82 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, instead it was about 30, it's going to be about 36. Literally less than half. Those are millions of dollars. But if the superintendent had said, we're going to open in September, that's why we're here, to educate children, not to make them move from one school to the next in the middle of the year. Well, I think the students will be incredibly excited to do precisely that. And here's the irony. We're going to be moving in on October 12th, not January. So it was an incredibly astute and unselfish and thoughtful decision. And for that alone, I think you deserve a tremendous amount of credit.
I appreciate it.
Anyone else? I just want to say that it would be impossible to quantify the challenges that have come your way this year. And I mean, everyone in this room and everyone, and there's just no way to quantify that. And, as chair, I get to communicate with you, and it's, like I said, there's just no way for you to, and that certainly should be recognized.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also will look at my administrative team, because had I not had them, it was scary enough as it was, but because of their solid leadership and us working in a collaborative basis, we made it. And we did some really, really nice things for our students. And Dr. Schwam, with her just right in there with the modern teacher and just all of her research, I think that what we did for our students has made a huge difference, and for our teachers, because it's been something. But I will tell you,
I would not want to do it again.
What?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, and I understand that, but we're talking about you and your goals right
I
now,
get
but
it.
I certainly recognize that everyone,
I
you know,
know.
has faced those
But I
challenges.
wouldn't be able to do that if not for them.
So just one more request, could you share with us your slideshow that you had,
Oh,
or
yeah.
any, okay,
Yeah.
all right, if you would share that with us. Go ahead.
I did just want to say I loved hearing every single thing that's been done with the capital plans. I know that with all the talk of the new school coming up, it's nice to hear how much attention's been given to the existing schools and getting them up and running and hiring somebody so that we're not constantly having to fight to find an HVAC person or a plumber, even shared with the town. I think just from a perspective of having that kind of help and assistance when stuff goes on is hugely beneficial. So I did really appreciate how you broke down and the proactive to reactive way that you've been working with the capital improvements is huge. And I know that I'm sure that Scott and Tracy very much appreciate the work being done to their buildings while Joan and Bethany get a brand new one. So I know that it doesn't go unnoticed, and I'm sure that the teachers and everyone in the buildings appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
And it'll be really great in the fall when we can actually visit the schools and see all the wonderful things. Well, we did get to visit, but, you know,
Yeah.
longer
All right.
visits, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
We'll move on to the elementary school building update. Is there anything that we haven't shared that you'd like to share in an update?
I guess the most important thing to understand is we are still on schedule for substantial completion, which is a technical term that even the state of Massachusetts recognizes, for September 15th. So October 12th is realistic. I know the bane of some people's existence, whether you're building a new home or a new school, is the punch list. And I can tell you that Bacon has a philosophy, that's our general contractor, that they will do the punch list before the kids are in the school and the teachers are in the school. And that's exactly the kind of attitude we want, because that's easier for them and it's easier for us. So you can anticipate that there will be a lot of activity in the last 2 weeks of September and the early part of October to make sure the school is in as good a shape as possible when the kids move in. We are still looking at, you know, something like 75-80% of our contingency, which is a really big percentage of a pretty big number, is still available. So it's highly likely we won't need it, which will lower the cost even more. And finally, when we actually get to go beyond Facebook Live and people actually get to go in there, because right now the building is controlled by the general contractor, I think you will see a spectacular building. And I look forward to the parents and grandparents being able to get in there and appreciate what they have done, because they are the people that approved that debt exclusion way back when on the first vote with a 60% margin. And they're going to be rewarded with not only much less cost on their tax bill, but a much better building than I think we even thought it was going to be. Like, for example, fully air conditioned. So I think we're in good shape.
So I just want to point out what something that Jeff just said about access to the building and visits, and I'm sure, you know, the school committee wants to visit the building, but unfortunately we still can't. But as soon as we can, we will make that happen, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, and just one more thing, just a thank you to former school committee member Mike Flaherty, who brought the article to town meeting for the school name, and thank you to the voters who came out and voted for the school name. So now that was a big piece that we were waiting for with all the delays to town meeting, so.
And if it hadn't been approved, it would have cost us money.
Another good reason.
Literally, the general contractor said, we need the decision now, or else it's too late and we'll have to come back and do it. And anyway.
So Wareham Elementary School it is, yes. Okay. Is there any other business from the committee?
Not necessarily business, but I know that all of the teachers, the staff, the families, the students, the administrators, I hope that you guys have the most stress-free summer that you've ever had. I know that going in, your work is never done. I know you guys continue to work all year round, but I just do hope that with the students not in the building, that everyone's, and my fellow committee members as well, have an enjoyable couple months off.
Yeah, I echo that and just acknowledge, the end to such a challenging year. And looking forward to next year. Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll ask just for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.